Greetings, travelers, and welcome to the table. I'm Psychotech, but you could call me Mike. Come and join me now behind the screen while I tell you all about how I got started with D&D. Now, most of us have one of those funny aunts or uncles that aren't actually related to us. I have just one such uncle that my family used to visit quite regularly. He had all sorts of figurines and toys and dark art around his house. It was actually quite interesting to just look about and take everything in. Kind of things you'd normally find at like a tattoo shop. Sometimes I would just sit in the corners of the house and just draw some of those interesting things that I saw. Now normally when we were over there, us kids would just play outside while the uncle and his friends were down in the basement for a few hours. But we weren't allowed to go down there while him and his friends were. And one day when I went over to his house, I was sick. I think I had a cold or something similar. That's not really important to the story, but it's there anyway. So anyway, because I was sick, I had to stay in the house that day instead of playing with the other kids. So I got myself all sat up, good and comfy in this big recliner he had in the living room, with my Game Boy, playing the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring game. After a while, the uncle returns upstairs to grab more drinks for his group when he saw me playing the game and asked me about it. I explained what it was in great detail, all starry-eyed from excitement, as most people I knew weren't interested in fantasy games like this one. After I was done, he asked if I wanted to see something amazing. Being the young child I was, and eager to please him, I said yes. And he led me down to the basement where his friends were all sat around a big table with papers, books, dice, and this big map with lots of little figures all over it. He pulled up a spare chair from the side of the room and put a few cushions on it so I could see what was happening. Then he started talking all funny like the characters from my games as he weaved the story for his friends while they made choices and battled monsters and had other such interactions. After the session was over, my uncle asked me if I had fun. Of course, I said I did. Later that day, he spoke with my parents, and the next week my parents took me over to his house all by myself. When I got there, he took me back down to the basement, where he had set up my own spot at the table, along with a blank sheet and a stack of books that he had pulled off the shelf. Then he helped me roll up my very first character. It wasn't anything too crazy, just a simple human fighter named Varric, who was very much inspired by Boromir from the Lord of the Rings. And later that day, I played my very first session of 2nd edition D&D. And that's where my story began.